Hello and welcome to News Central Now. I am Lekan Onabanjo. The headlines at this hour. Death toll from Gwoza, multiple bomb explosions in Borno State hits 23. Second phase of Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway to be inaugurated in August. Polls close. Vote counting begins in Mauritania election. Details to come your way shortly. We begin the news by telling you that the death toll in the Saturday twin bomb blast in the Gwoza town of Borno State has risen to 23. Several victims are currently receiving medical treatment at the State Specialist Hospital in Maiduguri. News Central's Sumari Karawa tells us more.
Scenes of solidarity unfold as families visit victims wounded in the recent multiple bomb explosions in Gwoza town of Borno State.
Magana me zai yi yaro ko magana baya yi wallahi ba abin da zai iya yin ce ne ina akwai mai magana yayi wallahi ni na daga wa Allah hannu Allah ya kawo musu sauki Allah ya yaye su masu yi ma ubangijin Allah ya shirye su shine addu'a na ba wani abin da na yi sai in faɗa akan wani abu.
Today is Sunday and it's a market day on Sunday, so we believe maybe their target might be the marketplace. So for now everybody's at home calm and praying, although with that tragedy and pain of what happened last evening. Something that word cannot even express it. We cannot express the pain. Particularly for myself, I lost 5 of my friends, families, and associates. 3 instant deaths and 2 lost their lives overnight at Gwoza local government, pending to the referrals this morning, which I believe it must have been part of perhaps bleeding, internal injuries or so. So I can't just imagine the pain of losing 5 people at a time. So this is something I can actually not forget, because this has taken me back to memory lane of 2014 when Gwoza was raided by these terrorist groups.
When da yake faruwa muna iya kokarin mu sanan kuma ana bin diddiki yanda za a yi a samu saukin abubuwan gaba daya, sai dai mu ce Allah da ya kawo mana sauki, kuma muna godiya da dukkan ƴan uwa shugabannin mu na Gwoza gaba daya local government in gaskiya muna godiya a yanda su suna bada goyon bayan su.
From the few reports we received yesterday that there were bombs also in Pulka, but unfortunately it didn't blast. So see, that fear will still be there in people, and we just thank God that the military are taking care of these issues. Gwoza is under control for now.
Officials have promised continued assistance to both patients and their families throughout their recovery process.
We will only plead with the victims of the families of the victims to take it as fate from God, that is destined to happen. It's not something that one will say can give the reasons for the cause of this. We just accept it as fate from God, because we can't even say how these people got to Gwoza. We don't know how many of them. We don't know why they did all this. With the issue of the insurgency around, we're trying to settle people, taking them back to their places, but unfortunately this incident happened.
So I call on all of us, all the citizens, the security personnel, let's cooperate so that we can be able to, fish out this, because the issue of suicide bombing is not something that the military alone can actually tackle. It is something that we all can handle and tackle. So to me, I think cooperation between the civilian and the military is the best way out.
The hospital staff are working tirelessly to stabilize and treat those injured, with government officials overseeing arrangements to ensure families receive necessary assistance during this challenging time.
The situation is tense here at the State Specialist Hospital, Maiduguri, as families keep trooping in to come to sympathize with their loved ones, and their prayers is that they will get well soon, as the situation in Gwoza is getting calm. And you can see behind me, most of them are families coming from the metropolis, and the situation is that of a tragic moment for them, and then a difficult time to experience once again. And the hope now is things will get better soon and the security situation will improve. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Marakarawa, thank you so much for that report. We now tell you that the Minister of Police Affairs, Senator Ibrahim Gaidam, is intervening in the ongoing face-off between the Police Service Commission and the Nigeria Police Force. After concluding the recruitment, the PSC on June 4 released the list of 10,000 successful applicants for constable and specialist cadre roles in the Nigeria Police Force. 11 days later, the police rejected the list over the allegation that the exercise was marred by corruption and irregularities. Following the action of the police, the Commission's union called for the removal of the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Betokun, for misrepresenting facts on the recruitment. Now, the Federal Capital Territory Commissioner of Police, Bernard Igwe, has ordered a clampdown on vehicles plying the roads with single or no plate numbers across the nation's capital. He also directed the arrest and the prosecution of defaulters. In a statement by the command spokesperson, Josephine Ade, she warned car dealers against parking the vehicles in an unauthorized parking lot and driving beyond the stipulated time. Ade stated that the CP said defaulters would be made to face the full wrath of the law. She also added that the cases of one-chance operators in the FCT had been linked to the practice, urging motorists and dealers to desist from such acts. Away from that, Nigeria's Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission has launched a strategic action plan to effectively tackle corruption against or amongst governments, ministries and agencies. Now, this was during a workshop for management and staff of the commission, which was held in Abuja and focused on effective monitoring and evaluation, especially as it helps deliver on the mandate, which is ridding the nation of graft.
For ICPC to be able to work to its stated targets and objectives and goals, it has to have those clearly marked out. And in the course of the 4 years, the Commission has outlined all it will be doing, the time it will take to do some of those things, the resources it requires to do them, and our stakeholders that will help us to achieve those objectives are all laid out in the plan. Implementation of any plan comes with its own challenges. One of such could be inadequate funding to cover all you have outlined to achieve. Another one could be the problem of data. People are naturally resistant to give out information.
This is about monitoring our activities, investigation, prosecution, public enlightenment, system study and review, monitoring our activities so that we are able to deliver what we promised in that strategic action plan the way we have promised it.
60 suspects comprising 25 males and 35 females have been arrested at a drug party in Abuja, the capital city of Nigeria. This was disclosed by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency on Sunday. The suspects were nabbed in the nation's capital last Friday night following credible intelligence about the drug party organized by one Stanley Kechuku, who was arrested at the venue. Disclosing this in a statement, NDLEA spokesman Femi Babafemi said the drug party tagged Go Hard or Go Home, Pick Your Poison, held at an apartment in Sun City Estates in the FCT. Similarly, the NDLEA boss said 4 suspects were apprehended in a deep forest in Ogun during an operation in Edo State. The importance of youths in the growth and development of any society cannot be overlooked. In the Commonwealth Youth Perspective, youths have been urged to start new programs to network at the grassroots, concentrate on value education and spiritual renewal. The significance of this lies in forging links between cultural minorities to share values, culture, and tradition handed down from generations to generations. United Nations Development Programme in a published article said the lack of meaningful engagement of young people in political processes for any reason negatively impacts not only them, but also the broader communities. And now to speak on this issue, I'm joined by Elvis Akpobi. He's right here live in our studios. He's the Executive Director, Not Too Young to Lead Initiative. Elvis Akpobi, thank you so much for joining us to talk about this.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
So first, what's your assessment of the roles Nigerian youth have played in the social, political, cultural, and economic space in the country in the last 2 years? Has it been underwhelming or very encouraging for you?
For me, I would say it's been very, very encouraging, owing to the fact that the advocacy has bettered inclusion for young people across board, both at the federal level and at the state level. Charity, they say, begins at home. I'm a proud Deltan, and today we are blessed with a governor that has his Right Honorable Sheriff Oboro that made that included young people in almost half of his ESCO members, commissioners, who are commissioners are young people. And what we'll clamor for today is those young persons that have been given the privilege to make policies, to make decisions for the states, their actions and inaction will either open door for more young people. So it goes to show that the advocacy of the Not Too Young to Lead initiative, it's growing and it's yielding fruit. The next we're moving on to is the process of recruitment of these young people, because it's not just about recruiting young people, it's about recruiting young people who are in sync with character, capacity, and competence, who are responsive and who are accountable. And I think we'll get there.
Well, we're also aware of how heated the polity has been in the country in the last few years. But beyond traditional peace-building methods, what innovative approaches can be implemented by young Nigerians to address the root causes of conflict and also ensure the sustainability of peace efforts?
For me, to avert those, to bring peace and all that, we must have a national identity as young people. We must move from must move from binaries like ethnicity, party differences, either you're Yoruba or maybe you're Ijaw, but we must put Nigeria first. We must have that national identity as Nigerians, because over time we are divided by these negative binaries of party differences. It's either you are an Ibibio or you are a Yoruba, but we must put Nigeria first in our actions and inactions. So if we can have that national identity, I think we'll get it right as Nigerians and as young Nigerians. Let's not forget too that the populace today, we have the larger demographics, so our actions and inactions will determine how Nigeria will grow. So once we see ourselves as mirrors of each other, I think we'll move forward.
But then when you look at how the 2023 pre-election panned out, there were propagandish materials and messages pushed out, inducements, and having some kind of words with negative narratives that actually fragmented the different ethnic groups in Nigeria. Now, if that begins to play out, most especially from those benefiting from it, to talk about the leaders, political associates, leaders, so to speak, what would you expect Nigerian youth to do at this point, not to toll that narrative and also form a formidable front to champion a national cause?
I may be wrong, but I'm of this opinion that a handful of the political class have used poverty as a weapon, and poverty is the primary indicator of vulnerability. When you are poor, you become vulnerable. And often time we've got to some gullible young people who make themselves vehicles of violence during electioneering. But with good advocacy, engagement, CSOs coming on board, talking to young people, working on mindset of young people, that our actions and inactions will determine how Nigeria will look like, and our blunders will become the burden of the next generation. I think if we keep engaging ourselves, and another thing that is key again is the National Orientation Agency. I don't know if they are underfunded, but I think it's time they go back to their drawing board and do what they were, what that act was made for, because at the moment, people are misinformed. People just do things the way they do things just because they are not informed. I think it's good they keep up their game and do what's necessary of them.
Of course, we do have NGOs, we have other international and local organizations. So for them, what sort of educational system reforms would you now, at this point, think would be needed to actually equip these young people when it comes to knowledge acquisition, skills, values necessary to actually become effective agents of peace and, of course, positive change in the society?
I'm happy that I'm in a generation whose currency is talent, skills, witty initiatives, potentials, and all that. So for me, I think it's if we can develop these currencies, we'll do better. Let's not forget too that oftentimes the CSOs, I think we have our value proposition, but for me, it's are they not too young to lead? What we do, it's share positive values, engage young people on being better citizens, because if we get better citizenry, we'll get good leadership. Another thing, again, I want to really amplify is the need to, I think we should, the content creating sector of our country needs to be regulated. I don't know if we're getting there already, but we need to be it needs to be regulated, because what society amplifies, what it glorifies, will always multiply. Oftentimes, when I come on the social media space, I see what content creators do. Fine, some are very, very positive, but I think lately a larger percentage is because it's negative. And when young people, oftentimes, when you see something over and over again, you become that thing. So if they see negativity over and over again, they become negative, and their actions becomes negative, which has a very negative ripple effect on our society today. So aside engagement on being better citizens, I think it's time we regulate the content creating sector to always push out the positive things that will reflect positively on our society.
Okay, that's well understood, but then I'm bothered about how the regulation would be implemented by the bodies responsible, because some people feel that will create a lot of bottlenecks, and even the processes might be, surely inhibited, and people will just have the arbitrary, have to take arbitrary decisions on what can be aired or what can be shared on social media and what cannot be. So if you are going to regulate the content creating industry in Nigeria, how do you think that should be carried out to ensure that there is equity and justice, and people are able to actually, assimilate or internalize content that will bring about benefits, of course, for the country?
It boils down to good citizenry. If we have good citizenry, if the persons that will be regulating these policies, if there are people that have Nigeria in mind. Oftentimes we have failed policies because of the people that are meant to implement these policies. So if we had people on board who place Nigeria first, who have good value system, who believes that this content, whether it's from the person that created this content is from my state, or whether the person is from my tribe, this content, if pushed out, will have a very negative ripple effect on our society. That content should not come out. So for me, let's start with the people on board that will be on board to implement these whole processes. They should be X-rayed, they should be good people, people that will put Nigeria first, people that believes in making Nigeria synonymous to greatness, people that believe that we, as Nigerians, our actions and inactions will determine how the entire world sees us. People like that should be on such policy-making thing as far as this content regulation is concerned.
Okay, no problem. Elvis Akpobi, Executive Director, Not Too Young to Lead Initiative. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
The news will continue in a short while. To stay with us, we're going to break. It's nice to know you're still there. Now, in its efforts to sustain the ongoing infrastructural development drive in line with its renewed hope agenda, the federal government has announced plans to inaugurate the next phase of Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway from Cross River to Akwa Ibom. The Minister of Works, David Umahi, disclosed this at the stakeholders engagement meeting held at Ibom Hall in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State on Saturday. Now, this was contained in a statement by the ministry's Director, Information and Public Relations, Edith Ekpenyong, on Sunday. Speaking at the event, the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, expressed his appreciation to President Bola Tinubu for listening to his plea to start Section 3 and 4 of the Coastal Highway in Cross River State to Akwa Ibom. He called on the Akwa Ibom State Governor, Pastor Umaeno, to give maximum support to the federal government. Away from that, the Transmission Company of Nigeria has announced plans to carry out critical maintenance work on the 132 kilovolts Akure-Osogbo transmission line. According to a public notice, the upgrade will disrupt power supply to Ondo and Ekiti states for 2 months. The notice further indicated that the affected states will experience power outages that will last 9 hours daily, starting from Monday, July 1 to August 31. We'll now tell you that the Turkish embassy in Nigeria has confirmed that there is no visa ban on Nigerian passport holders, dispelling rumors and reports that have raised concerns. Reports surfaced on Thursday suggesting that Ethiopia, Turkey, and the United Arab Emirates had revoked certain privileges for Nigerian passport holders, such as visa on arrival, e-visa, and outright passport issues. Specifically, the reports said Turkey no longer allows Nigerian passport holders to obtain its e-visa, which was previously a seamless process. When contacted, Turkish ambassador to Nigeria, Wumi Evelyn, stated that visa applications are evaluated on a case-on-case basis, addressing specific instances where applicants faced rejections. The Katsina state government says that several milestones have been achieved in its quest to reach targets set by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. This was made known by the officials of the state government at the State House when it hosted its first sub-national convergence on sustainable development goals in the nation's capital, Abuja, with an aim at reviewing progress made so far and setting benchmarks for future efforts.
Gender inclusion.
This is the first event of its kind in the whole country at a subnational level. And if anything, this shows our commitment in Katsina State to advance the SDGs.
In 2019, the annual school census of Nigeria suggested that Katsina, among other 7 states, had low transition of primary to junior and from junior to secondary schools. Katsina State recorded 47% decline of transition of children from primary 6 to JS1. It was reported in 2019 that 18% of deaths as a result of banditry-related issues were actually not the killing themselves, but lack of capacity by school communities to secure themselves in the event of the attack. Some people go towards the attack areas because they lack capacity. Currently, under his leadership, at the first instance, 188 secondary schools received 23 million each as a large grant to renovate, to provide toilets, to provide water points.
Widowhood is a profound loneliness that follows the death of a spouse, bringing immense pain and vulnerability. In this special report, News Central's Chinwe Ogele x-rays the life of a widow in an Igbo community, revealing the challenges and resilience she faces.
In the peaceful Avonkwi Beko community lives Favor Onyemobi, a resilient widow. She shares her mother's 2-bedroom mud house built by her late husband with her only daughter, Ruth. As Ruth tackles her National Examination Council tests after completing the West African Examination Council tests, they both face the struggles of life without their beloved husband and father. 9 years have passed since his death, and each day has been a testament to their enduring strength and hope for a brighter future.
One way or the other, we are eating.
Life hasn't been easy for the both of us since my daddy died. I was 6 years and we hit 2015. I'm hoping on God.
Madam Favor, as she is fondly called, struggles to make ends meet, juggling multiple jobs to support her daughter's education and her own health. She rents farmland to cultivate crops, gathers firewood from the forest, and sells roasted groundnuts and corn as a side hustle. By 10 a.m. on this day, she had already returned from the forest with a bundle of firewood, finding the TV crew awaiting her arrival. Despite being in her mid-40s, she looks older, worn down by the relentless stress of providing for her family. Making ends meet is a Herculean task she faces every day.
This woman, for the dear, so when you do not put on a phone, or not one again, no. So mkpọtụkwa ya mgbe ụfọdụ si ya lekwa daddy lekwa ihe problem dị mgbe ụfọdụ ya sị mgbe sendere m account number etiri m.
The reason she still resides in her husband's house, even against the wish of her brother-in-law, according to her, is because she resisted all attempts to frustrate her by the family.
So ha hụla that maybe ha bụ n'obi maybe na ngabụ nsogbu nyere ha. Omecha gị daba. Onye ọbụla nọrọ onwe ya.
They called themselves my uncle. That I think that they will be there for me. No. None of them deserve to help me. Only me and my mom is suffering. So life hasn't been easy for us.
Ruth dreams of becoming a nurse, but the path ahead is uncertain. With financial resources in question, she leans on her only family, her mother. Ruth prays that nothing takes her mother away, while Madam Favor's greatest wish is to see her daughter's dreams come true.
I want to lose her. I want her to be on the beside me all my days. I want her to eat the fruits of her labor, all that she has suffered.
So my hope is that I Basco. My brother resort I pray.
For now, her only hope of sponsorship for her daughter's education is her farming and petty trading, which are inadequate with the current economic situation. The farmland is located in the valley, with erosion digging deeper on their only route. Yet, they effortlessly descend and ascend this hill, at least once daily. The story of Madam Felicia here represents the story of majority of the widows in our climb. Periodically, government gives out handouts to these widows to show love and acceptance, but then they require much more from the society than mere handouts. In Omahafo News Central, Chinwe Ugele.
Very touching story, dear Chinwe. Thank you so much for bringing us that. Now, coming up on the news. Polls close, vote counting begins in Mauritania election. Do stay with us as we bring you the details in a bit. Even as we bring you the rest of the stories, we take you to West Africa, where Liberia's President Joseph Boakai may be moving to get a long-awaited war crimes caught up and running, but he already faces criticism over his choice for a key post at the tribunal. The row is a fresh reminder that justice for victims of the country's civil wars remains still a long way off. President Joseph Boakai signed a decree on May 2, creating an office responsible for setting up the court to judge war crimes after years of international and domestic pressure. In late June, he appointed lawyer Jonathan Masakwe to head up the process. The West African nation's two civil wars left an estimated 250,000 people dead between 1989 and the year 2003 and resulted in massacres, mutilation, rape, and cannibalism. We now head to the south of the continent to tell you that the Economic Freedom Fighters has written to the African National Congress expressing their willingness to work with the party amid talks to form the 7th administration. However, the EFF's offer hinges on the exclusion of the Democratic Alliance and the Freedom Front Plus. This was revealed in a letter to the ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula, penned by the EFF Secretary General Marshal Lamini. The EFF believes that based on the ANC and EFF election manifestos, there is more to bring them together to co-govern. This new agreement would have to, amongst others, include the principles of redress and equality. Now, paramilitary forces battling Sudan's regular army for more than a year said they had taken a key state capital in the southeast, prompting thousands to flee. Earlier on Saturday, witnesses said there was fighting in the streets and rising panic among residents seeking to flee. Sudan has been gripped by a war since April 2023, when fighting erupted between forces loyal to Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and the RSF leader, who is his former deputy, Mohamed Hamdan Daglo.
إننا على ثقة في تجاوز هذه المحنة بالدربة والحكمة والقوة بما يحافظ على أمن ووحدة البلاد وبما يمكننا من الانتقال الآمن للحكم المدني. المواطنين الشرفاء، إننا نترحم على كل شهداء بلادي، نتمنى الشفاء للجرحى وندعو الله أن يعود علينا هذا العيد وبلادنا تنعم.
And now to North Africa. Vote counting is underway in Mauritania following Saturday's presidential election. 9 candidates are running to restore constitutional order following last year's coup. Electoral officials began counting ballot papers immediately after polling stations closed. It is a vote to return to constitutional rule after a coup 11 months ago toppled the nation's first freely elected leader. Yaqub Ould Abdullahi says he wants a president who represents a clear break from the period of coup d'etat. Meanwhile, President Mohammed Ould Sheikh Al Ghazouani had earlier expressed his satisfaction with the climate of peace, security and serenity in which voting operations took place in the country. His comments came shortly after human rights activist and opposition candidate Biram Da Abid denounced fraud.
نوجه أحر التهاني لجميع المواطنين على سلوكهم وعلى ظروف والجو التنافسي الإيجابي اللي تمت فيه الحملة الانتخابية. نختار كذلك أن أعبر عن ارتياحي الجو الهدوء والأمن والسكينة اللي تجري فيه عمليات الاقتراع اليوم على كافة التراب الوطني وكذلك تجري في الخارج بالنسبة لجالياتنا المقيمة في الخارج.
Staying in the region, at least 5 people have been killed and 59 others injured when a bus overturned on a coastal highway in Egypt's northwestern province of Matru. The motor coach overturned on the Alexandria-Matru highway and the victims were taken to 3 nearby hospitals, according to the reports. Mabruk Salem, the Health Ministry's Undersecretary in Matru, said in a statement that 33 of the injured were discharged from hospitals after treatment, while the rest of them were still under medical supervision. Still ahead on the news. 2 dead, 1 missing in Switzerland landslide. Details of this and others to come your way shortly. Stay with us. From other continents, we tell you that 2 people have died and a 3rd is missing after torrential rains triggered a landslide in southeastern Switzerland. The mountainous nation faced severe storms over the weekend, prompting the evacuation of hundreds in the west after the Rhone River and its tributaries overflowed. Officials say the bodies of 2 people were found by rescuers in connection with the landslide in the Fontana region. Meanwhile, at least 1 person has died and 5 others wounded in northeastern France after several masked gunmen opened fire at a wedding ceremony on Sunday. Sources suggest that the attack in this northeastern city of Thionville was linked to a settling of scores between drug traffickers. The shooting took place at a reception hall overnight on Saturday to Sunday with around 100 of people in attendance. 2 people were seriously injured and 1 of them was in a critical condition. The perpetrators of the shooting have fled the scene. However, officials in a statement said the assailants arrived in a 4x4 vehicle, probably a BMW, and adds that it was not immediately clear where the vehicle had come from. Also, at least 7 people have died in a Russian strike in the South Ukrainian town of Vilnyansk in an attack that came hours after Russia said a Ukrainian drone killed 5 people on its border village. According to reports from both nations, on a fatal day in the more than 2-year conflict, 2 children have been confirmed, 2 have been killed in each attack.
Там перев'язували машини, грузили поранених, вивозили. Я свої машини вивозив, хлопці тут були, військові теж. Що, всі люди друг другу допомагали. Це дуже сумно.
Ну, зруйновано. У нас там колись був свій заклад, мангал-хаус, десь у 19-му році. Да. Зараз того будинку немає. Я так розумію, що там усі, хто були, там була чебуречна, я точно знаю, там була парикмахерська, це вівто.
Away from that, thousands of protesters are gathered in Tel Aviv to call on the Israeli government to take further action to obtain the release of the hostages that Hamas is currently holding in Gaza. Protesters are also demanding an immediate ceasefire to bring about an end to more than 8 months of fighting in Gaza, which has killed almost 38,000 Palestinians and at least 318 Israeli soldiers. Protesters carried pictures of some of the Israelis taken captive during Hamas's incursion into Israel last October, when some 250 people were seized.
Everything changed since October 7th. For our government, nothing has changed. They're still holding on to their seats, holding on to their jobs, and this is the only thing that matters to them. They don't care that 120 of our brothers and sisters are still held hostage in Gaza. I don't think we have enough soldiers, which is also part of what we're protesting about. All the ultra-religious men and women, but let's start with the men, they don't join the army because supposedly they're studying Torah is safe, keeping us safe. I would say they're failing. We're not so safe. And we need the manpower. That's the bottom line. We need the manpower to join the army and fight for this country.
האמת שפשוט לא יכלתי לשבת בבית. החלטתי שהגיע הזמן שכולם יצאו לרחובות ושנביא 1,000,000 או 2 מיליון איש החוצה ונפיל את הממשלה הזאת. זה פשוט בלתי נסבל. זו התנהגות שהיא לא לאומית, היא לא ישראלית, היא...
Talking business now, the Minister of Agriculture, Senator Abubakar Kyari, says the government of Saudi Arabia has expressed interest in setting up manufacturing factories in Nigeria for farming equipment. Kyari made this known on Saturday following a meeting with stakeholders from the Middle East states. He said the aim was to support Nigeria's agricultural sector through mechanization by establishing the plants in the country. He adds that the Middle Eastern country has pledged to purchase from Nigeria 200,000 metric tons of red meat annually, as well as 1 million tons of soya. Also, the Nigerian naira has emerged as the worst performing currency in the world in the first half of the year 2024, according to reports by Bloomberg. Devaluation, insufficient dollar liquidity amid market volatility have hindered efforts by the Central Bank of Nigeria to strengthen the currency. Besides the naira, Egypt's pound and Ghana cedis were the world's other worst performers in the first 6 months of the year. Tracking data from FMDQ, Bloomberg said that the naira weakened for a 9th straight day to 1,510 per dollar by the close on Thursday. Providing an update on the currency, the head of Africa strategy at Standard Chartered Bank PLC, Samir Gadio, said while the naira is undervalued and has seen significant adjustment, the supply of dollars needs to be improved for the currency to be supported. Nigeria's foreign reserves have continued an upward trajectory, hitting $34.14 billion on Friday, having appreciated by 4.06% from $32.74 billion on June 3, 2024. That is according to data from the Central Bank of Nigeria. The country's reserves are boosted by the latest rounds of loans the federal government got from the World Bank. In May, the Bureau of Public Enterprises disclosed that the federal government has secured a $500 million World Bank loan to boost the country's electricity distribution sector. Also, the World Bank revealed that the country would get $2.25 billion support to enable it stabilize the economy. Consequently, the external reserves have gained over $1 billion in just 1 month. And before we go on business, let's tell you that Angola is gearing up to export the most oil in almost 4 years this August, demonstrating why the country decided to leave OPEC. Shipments will jump to 1.23 million barrels a day, loading plans show. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries had tried to set a production limit of 1.1 million a day on Luanda, prompting Angola to depart the group. Output is not directly tied to monthly exports. Angola decided to quit OPEC in December because the production threshold set by the group after an external review of the nation's capacity was to be 400,000 barrels a day lower than a prior limit. That would have entrenched output restrictions and made it harder to go higher. In the world of sports, the Nigeria Stallions faltered at the African Men's Sevens 2024 tournament on Saturday, winning one of 3 matches on day 1 of the African Men's Sevens tournament at the Lebodone Stadium in Port Louis, Mauritius. The team made a bright start by thrashing Madagascar 34-14, but slumped to a 25-0 and 24-5 defeats to Kenya and Mauritius in the second and third matches, respectively, and failed to advance to the quarterfinals. Meanwhile, Uganda picked up gold after defeating Madagascar 31-12 in the finals of the 2024 Rugby African Men's Sevens in Mauritius. We also tell you that Ghana and West Ham midfielder Mohamed Kudus has etched his name deeper in the country's football history by winning the 2024 Footballer of the Year award at the Ghana Football Awards. This remarkable achievement marks the second consecutive year Kudus has claimed this prestigious title. The West Ham star faced stiff competition from fellow Ghanaians Abdul Fatawu Ishaku of Leicester City, Osman Bukhari of Crvena Zvezda, and Inaki Williams of Athletic Bilbao, but ultimately triumphed. Kudus's 2023-2024 season was nothing short of stellar, where in his debut year with the Hammers, he bagged an impressive 14 goals and 6 assists across 45 appearances. On the European stage, where he helped West Ham to a UEFA Europa League quarter-final finish with 5 goals to his name. Now, former Australia captain Michael Hooper has retired from international duty after his hopes of appearing at the Paris Olympics ended. The 32-year-old who captained the Wallabies to a record 69 times in his 125 Test career transitioned from 15-man rugby to sevens after being frozen out of the side by Eddie Jones following the 2023 World Cup. Hooper has decided to immediately step down from playing for his country after failing to gain a spot in Australia's sevens team for the Olympics in July. Hooper made his Test debut in 2012 against Scotland at the age of 20, and he became Australia's youngest ever captain in 2014, aged 23, helping guide the Wallabies to the Rugby Championship a year later. And that's all at this hour, but before we go, we take a look at some of our top stories. Death toll from Gwoza multiple bomb explosions in Borno State hits 23. Second phase of Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway to be inaugurated in August. We also told you that polls close, vote counting begins in Mauritania election. You can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number and email on your screen, and you can also follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. Do follow us and watch us live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekan Onabanjo.